the leadership on the Alabama football team as some guys transfer out, but some guys stick around, and they want to continue that Alabama legacy. One player that transferred out might have been tampered with. He's the one that said it. We're going to talk about Kayden Proctor and more, including Caleb Downs going to Georgia. Oh, no. He's at Ohio State. What's up with that, T-Rob? All of that right here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Roll Tide, everybody. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to Sunday Rollback, our every Sunday show that we do here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. And look at this. Got the entire crew here hanging out with me. Brett Elmore, you know him. Big Elmo in the house from WJLX in Jasper, Alabama at Brett Elmore Show. And the Catfish, who got a lot of big praise for being the Catfish recently. At this chat is real Chad Anderson. I'm Mick Gillispie at Broadcaster Mick. Great to see you guys.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys. Roll Tide, Mick.
Roll Tide, man. There's so much to talk about. What a week it's been. It feels like it's been 10 weeks.
Can you believe, put this in perspective, can you believe Nick Saban's only been retired 10 days?
No.
Or I guess 11 days. Yeah, it's 11 days. But yeah, January 10th. I mean, I don't know. It feels like 10 years, like you said. It's hard to believe Nick Saban has not been the Alabama coach for only 11 days right now.
It hurts my soul, Brett.
It's the longest 37 days of January I've ever seen. We've had Nick Saban retire. Not you, Mick, but Chad and I, not together, but in different locations, iced and snowed in, so we can't hardly do anything. This has been a terrible way to start 2004.
Yeah. Well, look, Chad's in Nashville. You're in Walker County. I'm down here in Fairhope. I mean, we've got pretty much everywhere covered, and the further north you get, the colder it's been, which is, I mean, look, I miss the snow, but it's probably because I never see it.
No,
right.
Not unless you've been at the Floribama for too long.
You gotta get some trouble started there. All right, let's get started with this, man. We talked about this guy, Calen DeBoer. We're gonna get into his contract situation at Washington before he came to Alabama later in the show. But here's his quote on the Paul Feinbaum show. He was on there Friday. There's such a great group of leaders here with this program who want to uphold the standard of Alabama football, and they are sticking together. We want those guys who want to be here. I hate to say this, as pained as I am about some of these guys that left, you can't have a program of guys that don't want to be there. You'll have a miserable program.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a program with a bunch of guys who don't want to be there, that's going to make for a very dangerous and a bad locker room environment. So, yeah, if you don't want to be there, don't be there. Transfer out, that's fine. And we saw a lot of talent transfer out. But DeBoer's going to have his shot. Like I say, this guy's a great coach. And, the spring transfer portal will open up, and maybe he'll wreak havoc then. I don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen. But all I know is the transfers, yeah, it's worrisome, obviously, as an Alabama fan, but let's just hold on and see what happens.
So, Mick, what was the most popular phrase, or Brett, what was the most popular phrase with the team this past season?
Lank,
right? Well, we've already got the T-shirt ready for next year, and it comes from Malachi Moore. And it's, if they're not wearing crimson, F them. Like that's what he said. It's his words. You got to live by it. He said it. It must be true. So Brett's right. Also, I mean, the thing you got to remember too is that Alabama still has stars all over the field. They've still got a spring portal that they can take advantage of. And also, guys, let's remember this: like Calen DeBoer, is 104-12. Okay. And there have been years where he didn't have the same talent as other teams. And he went at Washington 2 years. Remember, Washington was coming off a 4-8 season under Jimmy Lake in 2021. So he goes from 4-8 to next 2 years. What did he go? 25-3?
Yeah.
Something like that. 12-2, beat Texas in the Alamo Bowl, 14-1, plays for the national championship at Washington. And the only other time Washington had been in the playoff was under Chris Peterson back when Alabama beat him in the Peach Bowl in 2016. And let's be honest, that Washington team had no chance and no business being on the same field. They deserved to make the playoff that year, but they were not in the same level as Alabama. Washington, and I'm convinced that Michael Penix played really a very average to subpar national championship game. Michigan did a good job of confusing him, putting pressure on him, but he missed throws. He missed throws that he didn't miss against Texas. And Washington was in the game in the first half. Michigan just kind of pulled away late. So DeBoer was winning games, has won games. He's kind of always been in this spot where he wins with less. And now that he's at Alabama, yes, it's been gut-wrenching to watch players just walk out and leave and do their own thing and go to the portal. But at the same time, spring portal's coming, and this guy, from everything we've been told and seen, a hell of a football coach, just out coaches you. And so we'll see what he does, but just with his track record and what he's done at previous stops, still leaves me very optimistic.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. What about some of the leaders on the team? You mentioned Malachi Moore. So glad that he came back. I picture surprisingly, Deontay Lawson, who's been around a long time, but great to have him back in a situation like this because you need someone that is vocal, that is respected to say, hey, man, they may give you a leased Lamborghini or you may get enough money to go buy a car somewhere else, but the goal isn't to get paid in college. The goal is to go to the NFL and be successful.
Right.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But and I'm glad that these guys have been vocal and they've been hitting the social media and they've been adamant about, hey, we're rolling with the tide and everyone else, just like Chad had said, either roll with us or get rolled on.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll tell you, man, it really is eye-opening, and I guess we've been shielded from this because of how good Nick Saban is, right? But it's been eye-opening to see how the NCAA really has a lack of ability to control anything, right? When it comes to college football. And I want to play this for you guys because this to me really illustrates the problem with what's going on right now. Used to be if you tampered with another team's players, you were punished severely. Now it goes on and it's not even a big deal. Kayden Proctor came from Iowa. I know he was he was up until the last minute last year. He was committed to go there, came to Alabama. We watched him get his ass kicked at the beginning of the year, played a hell of a game against Georgia, and then he looked like a man running in slow motion again against Michigan. But with that said, I think he has a great career ahead. He was a true freshman playing, and he transfers out. Here's what he had to say. And you guys kind of just listen, and we're going to talk about this because he says it himself. Basically, well, let's just listen, and then we'll kind of talk about it.
No bridges were burnt, you know what I'm saying? So that's why it was so easy for me to pick them when I did enter the transfer portal because we still have those relationships. And even after I was doing bad in the SEC, and struggling, they hit me up and said, we're proud of you. You're gonna get through this, and that's what ultimately helped me with my decision because they still believed in me. I feel.
There you go. They hit him up, and they hit him up when he was playing at Bama, when he was struggling, when he looked like a guy that had cement sneakers. And that's what made his decision so easy.
Iowa slid into his DMs, it sounds like, more than they scored points in the past season. Iowa, But you're right, Mick. Like, this is something that it goes on all the time. I really don't even care. Like, I get it, and tampering's annoying, and it's technically against the rules, but I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things that still happens no matter what, and it's part of the game. You could almost call it like Connor Stallings with Michigan, right? Like, part of the game, part of the thing. Like, they just happened to get caught or got a little lazy with it, or maybe they went over the top with it, or whatever. But I think the NCAA is just a joke, and that's a pretty common opinion, I think, around football fans, because at this point, what are we even doing when it comes to college football? Like, we're paying players, which is fine. I'm all for that. But now we're talking about, tampering. There's no, whatever violations, nothing like brought down on schools, because now Arizona is accusing Jed Fish of doing the same thing, going from Arizona to Washington, and all the boosters and tampering and whatnot. You got Florida under investigation now from the NCAA. I'm not, to be fair, even sure what that's all about, but whatever it is, I'm sure it's BS. Like, college football is trying to live in this thing where they're trying to act like they're still this, prestigious, honorable, no sin kind of organization. But in reality, all these things are still happening. And then, one problem pops up, and it's like whack-a-mole. They put a cork in that one to keep the water from spewing out. And then something else happens, and something else happens. And I don't know, man. It's just kind of a cluster, it feels like. But they've got to get – have you ever seen, either one of you, the Chip Kelly thing, where he goes off about what football should do compared to the other sports?
I haven't.
I need to share that with you. I wish I had it, because it's so spot on. He says college football's just gotten to this point that it should just separate from all the other sports at every university.
I agree with that.
It should just be its own 64 team league, and you have a commissioner and you have regions of the country, because UCLA should play, in his mind, he goes, UCLA should play 7 games against.
Oh, Brian. Yeah. I remember with Chip Kelly. Yeah, I do remember this, right?
Yeah. He said that UCLA should play like 7 games against the West, and then you rotate regions every year. So then 5 games one year is against the South, and then the next year is against the Midwest, and the next year is against the Northeast, or whatever you want to call it. That way it's a little more fair and balanced, and you have a commissioner and you do these things. But yeah, I mean, this is, with going back to Kayden Proctor, not surprising. And he just happened to be stupid enough to say something like that, because it happens everywhere. It happens all the time. So it's just kind of like grain of salt topic for me.
Pretty dumb on his part, but yeah, he was getting his ass whipped in the SEC, and they come call it, and they're like, well, everything's just going to be fine, and you can come home after the season's over with. But the NCAA, they're not going to do anything about it. All they care about is the big money that they're making, and basically all they're good for is buying trophies for all the championship sports. I mean, what else are they doing? I mean,
and they're ugly trophies.
Yeah, and they're ugly trophies. Can you not even get that right? I mean, that's all they're doing is raking in the money and buying trophies. They have lost total control of everything, and they can't get a grasp of it. We need to just do away with the whole thing. And you were talking about Chad, about Coach Kelly's idea. I think it's a great idea, and we have a great commissioner that just retired, in Nick Saban, that could actually absolutely fix everything, and that would be all right with me.
Yeah, look, I'm not arguing either. I mean, I look at, just kind of going where you took this, Chad, with what Chip Kelly said. I almost feel like football needs to separate and become its own entity because of the financial aspect of it. The idea of football funding all of the other sports in an athletic department is old now. That's the next thing that needs to change. And I use women's basketball as an example, just because I'm not a fan of Christy Curry, but I mean, I could pick a bunch of other sports that are, that are the same. But the women's basketball team, they never make, they make the tournament once in a blue moon, but they travel around like they're the national champions, and no one goes to their games unless it's a team like LSU that everyone's there to cheer for them. It used to be Tennessee. They're not making any money. There's a bunch of sports like that. If you're going to put the money in the football, if they separate it and were their own entity, then those sports would get to spend what they bring in. And instead of flying on charters, they're going to be taking buses. And it's going to be crammed, but that's what they bring in. It's simple economics. Football deserves the money because they're the ones that generate the income.
Now, Mick, give women's basketball a break. The other night, that LSU game, record attendance. Did you see it? It was on ESPN. Record attendance there at Alabama of a little over 5,500 people. Come on, man. Man.
They were actually in it in the first half, which is for Christy.
They had the lead at halftime.
Yeah,
which for Christy Curry is a win. The queen of moral victories. Her and her husband over there on the side making like $800,000 in salary.
Yeah.
It's a good investment. Would you rather have them or Caleb Downs?
Yeah.
Mean, you know what I mean?
So let's do one with the basketball program or have Caleb Downs.
You guys
go with Downs.
You go with Downs.
An ice hockey program there?
It's a club team. What about you, Chad?
Sport.
Chad, you were a guy spent some time with gymnastics. Would you rather have Caleb Downs or the women's basketball team?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a question. It's not a question.
How far down do you have to? Would it take for you to say women's basketball, like the third string quarterback? Would you rather have Austin Mack or Tyler Laudergan or the?
hey, Mick, that's only worth in these days and times. That's only walk-on money right there that the women's basketball team is bringing in. I mean, I don't know about all that about Downs or whatever. That's walk-on money right there.
Think about the money you could save between all of the expenses you're paying plus those enormous salaries for something that's like no one would even miss. And think about the money that Caleb Downs generates. I mean, and his worth obviously was paid off by Ohio State. Alabama didn't have the money, or they didn't. I just don't think they had the money to pay it, which is a scary proposition. But you know what? Women's basketball will be playing in front of its normal 500-person crowd at Coleman Coliseum, which is vastly empty. And if you're not going to go out there and try to win, then to me, why even do it? That's my point.
Here's the other thing too. I saw this the other day. Don't know if it's 100% true. Haven't researched it, but came from a place online that I felt like was accurate or trustworthy enough. The University of Alabama. You know what the net worth is?
I'm going to say the net worth is for athletics or the whole thing.
University.
The whole university.
Gee.
I don't know. I was going to say athletics is probably $2 billion.
2.7 billion.
Okay, 2.7
so like my
billion.
problem with a lot of this stuff is, 2.7 billion. I don't know what football generates, but it's obviously hundreds of millions. I would imagine off of that. And when I look at it, I just go, at Alabama, we're seriously trying to hit up a collective with Yay Alabama, trying to charge the everyday worker in a bad economy $18 a month to sit here and pay for Caleb Downs to stay at Alabama when the freaking university's over here worth 2.7 billion. I can't keep the alumni association out of my damn inbox.
I know.
They can't wait to grease that palm a little bit, but we can't keep Caleb Downs. And that's the stuff. Remember when Coleman Coliseum was renovated and the cheeseburgers were $15?
No, I don't remember being renovated. Oh yeah, dude. Now that I mention it, I mean, they got done, and it's still. Well, they didn't even add luxury boxes. They just got like one side where you go up there and look over the edge. Like, it's
where
not,
you get your golden flake chips.
Oh, it's so bad. The Coleman Coliseum sucks too, and I've been to pretty much every gym, not Oklahoma and Texas, but the rest of them I've been to. It's one of the worst, even after the renovations. And they were supposed to build a new one, and then inflation or whatever. But it's another sport. People don't care as much about the football.
The concession stands, no joke, like cheeseburgers there are $12 or something crazy. And they're not even good. But that's the cost of them. And, that's the other problem is all this stuff keeps happening and then it just gets built in and who ends up paying for it?
Yeah, us.
The fans. So that's the part, when it comes to paying players and revenue sharing and NIL and collectives and boosters and all this stuff. That's what's got to get figured out because, I mean, I don't understand either. And it would be nice if football was separate. Maybe you can figure out the revenue sharing and not having to pay, all these other minor sports that I get it. They get educations, but where's the line with capitalism when it comes to that? So I don't know, but it's a problem.
Well, the thing is, you made a great point. The average everyday fan cannot spend $20 a month on a subscription for the NIL money. They can't even afford to go to a ball game anymore. The ticket prices, are such that the regular fan cannot afford to go to a football game anymore. Think about a family of 4. You're not going to be able to afford to go hardly. And then the average family, $20 a month, that's a strain in this economy. And if that's their solution, then we may have some problems.
I'm in the mortgage industry. Some of you know that already because we, promote myself here on the channel some, and very appreciative of that. But like I look at this data all the time from an economic perspective. The country is in the most credit card debt it's ever been.
Right.
It's over $1 trillion. Did you know last year the CFPB reported that over $150 billion were paid on credit card interest and bank fees and charges?
Yeah.
150 billion. So now you're trying to get, like Brett's sitting there reiterating, you're getting the common working man to sit here and pay $20 a month to his favorite football team that he escapes to or she escapes to on a Saturday to watch, only so Caleb Downs can come play here.
Right.
Like that's the answer.
Right.
What are we doing? What's happening?
Look, I think the solution is this, and I've complained about Alabama, the ticket prices, the fees that you pay on top of getting the season tickets. But I don't think that people would complain as much if you did a better job with the amenities that you're getting. First off, get people into the damn stadium. How can you guys not figure out how to get us into the stadium? I mean, we've been dealing with this issue for 30 years, right? When tickets used to be $25. That's number one. Number two, the concession stands. If you want to charge more money, that's fine, but make it a great hamburger. You can do that. Make it a bigger drink. Get the service to be faster. Make sure you don't run out of hot dogs and pretzels. Don't charge $20 for a beer. It feels like the concessions, and this is just from a guy that spent his entire life around professional sports, and I see the way that teams do it in the pro game, and I look at Alabama, and I'm like, why can't we set the industry standard like we do with the on-field play? You'll generate a lot more money if you take that aspect of things seriously, and then that money can be funneled into NIL collective somehow. I don't even know if that's legal or not, but who knows what's legal? It's not even illegal for Iowa to be, over there massaging Kayden Proctor's shoulders when he was not doing too good in SEC play. Like, come on. Like, the bottom line is this, is that if you're going to be successful, you're going to have money. And Alabama doesn't have the tycoon oil money that they're going to be going up against with some of these places. And then I don't even know where Ohio's gotten all this money, but it's been crazy watching them buy guys like Junkins and now Downs. I'll tell you guys this, and I was talking to Jake Coker about this on Elephant in the Room. The difference between a championship roster when Alabama wasn't good compared to where they are now on some of those teams was less than 10 players, less than 10 really good game-changing players. You had a lot of players that could play, but you just needed, the star players that you didn't get back then. I'm watching all these guys walk out. I know we still have a lot of good players, but these other schools know that. And so to me, figuring out a way to financially make this work starts with being better at the things that you can control. If you got to charge more for tickets to pay for this, then people want to continue to win championships, but they also want to feel like they're getting something more for their dollar. And I hate it, Brett, because you're right. They've priced out a lot of the common fans, but that's how the business is at every level. The NFL, at Major League Baseball, go to a Braves game. You know, you try to go to 5 Braves games and look how much money you spend, right? So yeah. I get that part of it, but for Alabama to be successful, that's just kind of the way that it's going to go. All right, guys, let's switch topics now. I want to talk about some of the visitors that were in Tuscaloosa this weekend and what this coaching staff is doing to help improve the roster. Obviously, Austin Mack was DeBoer's first commitment, and then they lose Julian Sayin, a 5-star consensus quarterback, right? Yeah. So he's out, which I think a lot of us would have liked maybe the timing of this to be a little bit different. But I'm going to start with the guys that were there this weekend. Ryan Williams made his second visit to Coach DeBoer. He's got Ryan Grubb, his offensive coordinator, who is the wide receiver whisperer. So if you're Ryan Williams, hey, you better team up with the other Ryan and you'll make a lot of money in the NFL. Parker Brailsford, the center, 13 games there. Please come to Alabama. Please come. Please come. All right. Jabbar Muhammad was there with his brother. He is rumored to be going to Texas for the money. Don't know what Alabama's going to offer. And obviously, he's still got a trip out to the Oregon Ducks. But you're talking about a guy who played in all their games last year, had 3 interceptions, 20 pass deflections, and 46 tackles, a second-team All-Pac-12. All right, so those guys we don't know about yet. But here's the first guy that is going to commit to Alabama, according to the reports. Jermaine Bernard, who transferred from Michigan State first, then to Washington, and he's going to follow Coach DeBoer, according to reports, to Alabama.
If the center, we're going to get to the wide receiver, but real quick, if the center commits to Alabama, does he get a standing ovation on the first snap of the year if it hits the quarterback in the chest? Okay.
Yes, in the hands.
Just checking to see. Here's something which it sounds crazy, right? But if you go back for the last 3 seasons, there's really been only 2 wide receivers that truly stood out on the field. And that was Jamison Williams and John Mechie. Alabama had good receivers, but nobody ever stood out. Isaiah Bond, 5-star. He didn't really stand out. We knew he was there. We knew he was good, but he never put up the numbers. You could never say he was like Devontae or Judy or anybody.
He averaged 3 catches.
That's what I mean. Like Nyblack was awesome. K-Law, awesome. Malik Benson, never did anything. Ja'Cory Brooks caught the pass in Auburn. Never did anything else. Ajayi Hall, gone, was supposed to be the guy. Just like you could sit there and name receiver after receiver after receiver, and nobody ever stood out other than Williams and Mechie. And so for the last 2 seasons, you really didn't have anybody. And so this is exciting because you got a guy who's coming in following Coach DeBoer, and it's more also about what you're going to see from this offensive unit, because DeBoer and Grubb, lights out when it comes to combination, coming up with an offensive scheme, etc. Think about what Alabama's had. Bill O'Brien and Tommy Rees. I mean, that's been the offense in the last 3 seasons. So looking forward to just new blood, new faces, and hopefully these guys will see some new opportunities.
What about the people, Brett, that say it's because Jalen Milroe didn't get them the ball, the wide receivers? And they're going to be in the comments section, and they're going to say the reason the receivers didn't do well is because Milroe didn't get them the ball.
Well, I think that is a fair point to some extent, but still, I mean, you got to make plays. And if you're a receiver, why would you not want to play for DeBoer? That's what I was thinking about, all these people, transferring out and everything. And I think that's why it's big for us to maybe get the commitment back from the kid from Saraland and Ryan Williams. But I'm excited about this guy transferring in from Washington and following Coach DeBoer. And I'm hopeful that the center will too, because like you were talking about, Chad, the center to quarterback exchange. Can you imagine our former center trying to snap the ball to the guy who came from Washington the other day, the first one to commit, Austin Mack, 6'6", 226 pounds, try hitting him in the chest. And I was thinking,
you talking about all those short hop snaps?
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine this Frankenstein in the backfield, 6'6", 226? I was looking to see when's the last time we had a quarterback that was 6'6", and the closest guy is your buddy Jake Coker. And
he's big.
They listed him at 6'5", so I'm going to put that on Coker that he was 6'5", so he's still not at the 6'6" point. But Matt coming in as the first kind of commitment there for Coach DeBoer. But a big weekend. But back to the receivers. Glad to see him. It looks like coming to Alabama to play, and like I say, with this combo of your offensive coordinator and head coach, the offense is going to be excited if we get some playmakers.
Yeah, I'll say this too about Jake Coker. He comes in the studio, I buy a brand new chair for him. Leans back the first time and it cracks and breaks.
Yeah.
So he was in the wood kitchen chair for a while, and I just got a new chair. And I told him, I said, look, man, I got some good news and I've got some bad news. And this was last show, and he comes in, and I said, the good news is you got a very comfy chair. The bad news is it's not the chair that I bought for you. It was actually too good to give you.
Right. Yeah.
Now,
nice chair, Mick.
Look at this. It's like I couldn't give him the leather Sealy. It just wouldn't fit over there on that side of the room. So
that's okay. Got it.
I got you.
What angle do we have? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Well, the guys that Alabama had recruited at quarterback lately would have fit a lot better in here. The Bryce Youngs at like 6 foot. And really insane. As much as I like him, he did look like he was 13, and they said 6'1". I mean, he looked like he was like 6 foot, maybe like on a good day, but not to say he couldn't sling it. I'm just saying he just didn't look very big.
Let's not act like you weren't out at Will Hagen's in your day telling people you were 6 foot too. Okay, you were rounding up. All right, Mick, you were always rounding up. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Get me one more time.
The quarterback situation, I was going through the height and everything. I was thinking, man, I do remember sitting on my couch thinking they're going to get this guy killed back there. But Mac, 6'6", 226, he's going to hurt someone while he's out there if he takes off running.
Yeah, if he gets any advice from Coker, it'll be look for the guys with the small numbers and run them over.
Right, and just run them flat over. But
slide when you see the big numbers.
Right. And I hate to see Sayin leave, and a lot of people are, a little upset about that. But let's face it, that guy has not played one down of college football. We don't know what he could do. And I hate to lose him, but Mac is a good addition to the quarterback room.
Well, they got to pick guys they like. Here's another guy that I think is going to commit or may have already done it. And we just don't know about it yet. Maybe by the time you're watching, it's happened. But this is Noah Carter, an edge rusher, 4-star guy, went to Washington to play for DeBoer, is in Tuscaloosa. And I think he's coming to Alabama. I think it's just a matter of him. He doesn't even have any other visits lined up. And talked about Coach DeBoer being the best coach in the country. And this Alabama needs some of these. These are the type of wins that we really needed before we admitted that we had quarterback Mac.
Yeah, this is what Alabama traditionally has thrived on, right? Defense. And so you get those nasty guys that come in, and look at Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, and those are just the recent ones. And of course, Braswell. But I'm pretty excited to add this person to what's already there with Deontay Lawson that we talked about, and Jahad Campbell. I believe he's going to be sticking around as well, unless I missed something. I think
he is.
Yeah,
and he's been one of the guys that's been vocal about it.
Right, that's what I thought. So you have him, you have Malachi Moore, of course, that we talked about. So this is a great addition. And again, Alabama, like, take Pete Golding, because I give him hell. Take him out of the equation, okay? Now look at the rest of the Alabama years in defense. It's always there. Every single time it's always there. Sometimes a little nastier than other years when you got joyless murder ball going on. But this is what Alabama's bread and butter, their MO, as Nick Saban would say. That's what it is. So having this guy come in, great edge rusher, great addition for Alabama, and Bama needs some more guys like this. But one thing I really liked with Kevin Steele, and I don't know Noah, so hopefully he's this personality. Bama needs angry guys, though. Like, they need some killers. They need some guys who are okay, mixing it up in the backfield, not dirty, but just letting you know they're there, like letting you know they're coming right back on the next play. And I feel like Alabama lost that, Pete Golding, but I think it came back a little bit this year, and hopefully they can get back to it again under Womack.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need that two-headed rattlesnake player, the mean one, the one with all the anger. And I revert back. I was calling some high school football, and we had a guy that went to Ole Miss, and off the field, one of the nicest human beings in the world. Very well spoken, just a nice guy, nicest guy you'd ever meet. And you put him on the football field, and he would knock the ever-living hell out of you. And that's why he went to Ole Miss. But that's what it kind of reminds me of. We need those guys that once they hit that field, they're going to be brutal. And yeah, I mean, and that's what. And Chad, you're right. That's what we've always been known for, is the defense. And when DeBoer came on board, everyone was talking about the offense, and the old school Alabama fan was like, hey, we've lost our defensive coordinator and Coach Steele. What about the defense? What about the defense? But this would be a big pickup in Noah Carter.
Yeah, no doubt. So we'll keep an eye on that. He's going to have some wins coming up. And this is a guy, guys, I want to put him up there, that was offered 2 different contract extension offers from Washington. Now, he has Jimmy Sexton as an agent. Jimmy Sexton represents Nick Saban. This was an easy negotiation for Jimmy Sexton because he held all the cards. But I really like the fact that this guy wants to be here, that he wants to embrace the challenge of Alabama football, that he wants to be the guy after the guy. And sometimes in life that doesn't work, but sometimes it does, and it's like, you have to embrace the challenge or you're going to fail, or you're going to get somebody that you don't want. So I thought that was interesting, and I'm excited about him being in town. I really am.
Well, I am too. And I think that, number one, you made a good point. Being willing to be the man after the man is a big thing. And number two, obviously, it really wasn't about the money. They were going to pay him up to, I think, $9.5 million. He's making like a little over 4.2. He wanted to come to Alabama, and he wanted to take on this challenge. And you're absolutely right. I think we got the man for the job. I think this is a guy who, Chad already mentioned it, and a great record, great track record. He got the blessings from Saban, and he was willing to take on the role of being the man after the man, the greatest to do it. So full steam ahead.
One thing here with the contract stuff, if you remember, Vern Lundquist on CBS one time years ago made a comment about how there was going to be a book written one day on how Mal Moore got Nick Saban to come to Tuscaloosa from Miami. I don't know that we'll ever see the book. Mal's passed on. Saban's now retired. I don't know if we'll ever see that true book. But one thing I would love is the book on this, because there are too many things out there that are just too like coincidental for this to have not been almost in the works for 60 days going into when it actually happened. Like, if you think about it, and maybe it is coincidence, I just find it hard to believe that there wasn't something going on. Jimmy Sexton's the agent. DeBoer sitting there with contract extensions that he won't sign. Nick Saban rumors of retiring were circling all season long, especially as they got into the playoff. Wimp Sanderson said on a radio show in October that Nick Saban was retiring, and everybody laughed at him and just said he was an old man who had lost his mind and has no idea what's going on with football. You don't have to be a football guy to have the inside connections to know if the football coach is considering retiring, and especially as well connected as Wimp is. So just all those things and how they added up and how they lined up, and how Greg Byrne was immediately on a plane to Seattle just hours after Nick Saban retired, and how he stayed in Seattle, how Jimmy Sexton came to Tuscaloosa, went into the football building on Thursday, basically to get everybody else a raise before they announced DeBoer, who came in. I mean, like, too much circumstantial evidence is just sitting there for it to not have been in place the entire time. Now, maybe it didn't go, as exactly scripted. Maybe Saban said, and Byrne said, and DeBoer knew, and Sexton knew, this is the plan if Nick pulls the trigger. But don't do anything because we don't know yet. It'll basically be up to Nick, and that'll be the first domino. And then when that one happens, everything but you just kind of look back, and as we start to unwind some of this and we hear some of the things and you find out some of the things, I don't know. I would just love to know down the road, like, how this all transpired, because in a day of modern technology and plane tracking and just social media and everybody in the know and in the middle of everything, I don't know. It's really interesting how it all played out and came together. But, I'm glad DeBoer, to be honest. I'm glad he turned him down, because Mick, you and I talked, my wish list was, 1-2 was Kirby D'Amico. Well, both pretty unrealistic, never going to happen. So then it came down to, DeBoer was kind of like my sixth option with 3-4-5. I mean, 3-4-5 being a mix of Lanning, Kiffin, and Sark. Figured Sark's not coming. Lanning and Kiffin, I thought, were very realistic. And then I know you always said no Kiffin, and so I believed on that. But I thought Lanning was realistic. But it turns out, like, the way this looks, Alabama never had any interest in anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, it was always DeBoer. It was always this guy.
You're right. And I think of it like this, and we've talked about this before. It took 49 hours to hire a new coach at the University of Alabama?
Like 44. Yeah.
Yeah. Just something crazy. He was giving 72 hours basically. And he made the hire in 44 hours or so.
Well,
and
remember,
that amazes me too.
It took Mal Moore 6 weeks to get Nick Saban.
Right.
And thank God for Rita Rodriguez. Statue should be built. She should be on the wall of champions outside Coleman Coliseum.
Hey, all you got to do is go down to Jacksonville State, because that's where Rich Rod is.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, I mean, that it's just kind of crazy. Yeah, how it all came together so fast.
That's pretty.
You're
quick,
right, Brett. Like,
when you're talking about the greatest coach of all time, and to make a hire that quick, I think you may be onto something.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this. I've talked about this on different shows. I don't know if I've talked about it with you guys before, but I've been a little critical of Coach Saban for not having a better game plan. Some people have suggested that they might not have known that there was a 30-day window for the transfer portal. I mean, and if they didn't, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, because they change the rules on this stuff constantly. Like it's almost like reading legalese, but I don't know if that's true or not. I've just heard that. I just didn't like the way that this wasn't calculated like most Nick Saban decisions were. And we know Nick because he's been the best since 2007. This just seemed rushed. It didn't seem like he had a game plan. Shows up, his family doesn't know if he's retiring or not. A couple people didn't talk to the coaches, goes in, talks to the athletic director. He zips on a plane to Washington. And then all of a sudden, a couple hours later, he goes in, coaches find out with the players, and you've seen what's happened. I mean, a lot of guys have left, a lot of the premier players, a lot of the 5-star recruits. I don't know that it would have made any difference. But at the same time, as good of a job as Greg Byrne has done, just think if you would have given him a day to figure this out.
Here's the thing. I'm like, my deal with it is, as meticulous and anal and OCD and crazy as Nick Saban is, right, with everything, it makes me think he had to have a plan. Like, he just had to have something in place. I just can't imagine, as meticulous as he is about everything, that he didn't have a plan in place. However, the Nick Saban who can't figure out how to use first half timeouts also makes me think, okay, maybe he didn't know the rule and maybe he didn't have a plan. But no, I go back.
Come on.
I know, I'm just joking. I go back to he had to have had a plan. I just have a hard time believing he didn't know that the portal would open. He didn't know all these different rules. I don't know. I find that hard to believe.
But remember, he's 72 going on 73. And think about this. Think about your parents or your grandparents that are 72 or 73 or in their 70s, man. I mean, like, it's not like you're in your 50s.
Because it couldn't have been just him. Like, surely Greg Byrne, surely Jimmy Sexton.
No one knew. He didn't tell anybody. Like, people at work that day, Chad, were doing their work. They were recruiting the next coaches.
I know, but I'm saying
he was interviewing coaching candidates.
He was. No, my point is, if there was a plan in place, like if there was already the plan in place, surely the topic of, hey, remember, you pull the trigger, the portal opens for 30 days. Like, you can't tell me that wasn't a part of the conversation.
Right. You would hope not, man. I don't know. I'm with you on that, Brett.
No. I mean, if you're saying that Coach Saban didn't know that when he retired,
just saying, I've heard that. I don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah, I know. But if that's what we're thinking or whatever, he surely to goodness he knew that the portal would open for 30 days. Somebody on. How many people did he have on staff there?
I don't know, but they're all getting fired.
Like, they're all getting cut.
They're cutting the fat, as they say, at the Alabama athletic department.
But they still need your $20 a month.
Right. $20 now, and we will see you. And
all of his buddies.
Yeah.
What do I get as my free gift?
all those guys were like, hey, is Charlie Strong going to be like the next defensive coordinator? No, he's out. Like, he's not even there anymore. I don't know if
Charlie
that.
Hey, look.
Yeah.
I forgot that Ken Wisenhunt existed as a human until I saw that he got fired.
Great coach, though. Great coach.
Yeah, I know, for sure. And Zach Mettenberger, I forgot he was on the staff.
Right.
Same thing,
Yeah, and I hear that Saban's not happy about that. Hey, that's not part of the deal. Well, you retired, man. I mean, what is part of the deal? Everybody, we're going to keep all your friends fat and happy because you're not there to use them anymore? I mean, you as a coach, when you leave, most of the time everybody leaves with you. If you would have given a little bit more time to Greg Byrne, then maybe you could have kept this guy, which it is pretty funny that T-Rob has become famous thanks to Lane Kiffin and his normal trolling, right? And I got to tell you, Tavarius Robinson, Kevin Steele, whoever it was calling the defense, I thought they did a really good job this year. And from the bottom of my heart, I wish that he would have stayed. Now, with that said, I enjoyed watching Caleb Downs go to Ohio State because he didn't follow turncoat to the new job, right? And it's like, maybe that's fair, maybe that's not fair. I don't know. But I'm an Alabama guy, and I don't want to see Georgia win any more of our players. You guys can have Pope. He didn't really play too much for us, and you can go there and we'll see what you – oh, wasn't he Downs' roommate? Oh, but he doesn't want best friend. I don't know. It's some kind of connection there. He's going to Ohio State. So you guys hired him. And then the thing about it that I love the most is that he turned down more money to come back and be Alabama's defensive coordinator. Not the guy that Lane Kiffin's joking about, but the main guy. And unfortunately for him, Ohio State ends up with another guy in the portal. Your thoughts?
Well, I love it. It's just theater. Alabama not getting either one of them, T-Rob or Caleb Downs. But it is great theater, right? Because all he did was take 1 point. And I think he's getting 1.3 million from Georgia, right? Isn't that the number?
Yeah.
So he's getting 1.3 million to be the assistant.
Wait, I don't know. I don't know what the number is, but I'll look it up. You go ahead.
I think it's 1.3. But whatever it is, he's getting paid. He's getting paid a hefty amount to be the assistant to the guy that's going to call plays for the Georgia defense. And this is, Mick, you and I talked about this the other night on a show. Like, this is what blows my mind about T-Rob, okay?
Yeah, you're right, 1.3 million.
1.3, okay. So this is what blows my mind about T-Rob, though, all right? You go, and Bama, I don't know what Bama offered him, but I'm going to assume it was 1.5 to 2, something like that.
No, more than that. I heard it's more than that.
Even more than that? Even more than 2?
No, they came back on that Sunday and offered him more money.
Well,
he was going to get a raise. He was so basically the timeline is
more than 1.3.
Well, he was getting Georgia offered him that enormous contract before Alabama had when Nick Saban was still there. They're working through it. The coaching change happens. He probably did what any of us would have done and freaked the hell out and said, I got to go. I got to this, because if you're Georgia, you're like, hey man, either take the money or we're pulling it off the table. So he goes there. Alabama gets the new coach. DeBoer is all about the offense. But he's not about, the defense isn't his thing. And he's like, hey, let's get this guy back, recruiting, da-da-da. They meet with him, and he decides to stay at Georgia.
Well,
less money.
Here's my thing with T-Rob. And we said this, Mick, you and I were recording the show the night Kane Womack broke, right? That's when Chris Lowe broke everything. So here's the thing with T-Rob for me. You can stay at Georgia and you can sit there and be in the shadows of everyone because they already have Glenn Schumann. Will Muschamp is on that staff. And then Kirby Smart is a defensive guy running the ship. He's the captain of the ship. Okay. You are lost in the shuffle. You have the co-DC title for your resume, but you are lost in that shuffle. I just named 3 other guys, okay, who are better defensive callers or at least have more experience than you do.
Right.
He could have come to Alabama, replaced Kevin Steele, a Nick Saban defense,
right?
And Calen DeBoer is an offensive guy. So Calen DeBoer hands you the keys to the SEC's perennial program. Sorry, Georgia, it's the truth. Hands you the keys to Alabama's defense and basically says, you're in the spotlight, kid. Here you go. It's all yours. And it blows my mind that he didn't take that opportunity because, again, Georgia may have a better defense than Alabama right now, especially after the portal and whatnot. But he had a legit shot to sit here at Alabama and really make a name for himself. Like if the defense succeeds, T-Rob's getting every ounce of credit. If Georgia's defense succeeds, one, it's just another great year for Georgia's defense led by Kirby Smart. And then everybody's like, well, you got Will Muschamp, you got Glenn Schumann. Now, oh yeah, you do have T-Rob too over there underneath Kirby's wing.
Right.
So he had a chance to really stand out. I think he blew it. That's not being a fan. That's just a business decision. Like if it was flip-flopped and he said, hey, I want to go over here to stand out because I'm tired of being in Nick Saban's shadow because everybody refers to it as Nick Saban's defense. Like that would make sense to me. But the fact that he left town, went to Georgia, just became another co-DC, had the opportunity to stand out over here. I don't get that from a business perspective. And I think he blew that one.
That's not a lateral move. Okay, so congratulations. He gets 1.3 million. I think the top paid assistant last year made 1.2, 1.3, somewhere in that neighborhood. So he gets that. So congratulations to T-Rob on that. You don't get Downs. Congratulations to Downs. You get to go to Ohio State, play some defense there. And guess what? You're going to probably play a lot of defense while you're at Ohio State because you've hired Bill O'Brien there as your offensive coordinator. So you'll probably be out on the field a lot playing defense. So I don't know if T-Rob probably just he's going to have the world's longest business card with the co defensive coordinator on there.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, I'll tell you this, like, we know he can recruit, right? I mean, that's kind of what his thing's been. And whoever was doing the adjustments in the second half did a great job last year. But I feel like this new coaching staff, although they're taking hits right now in the transfer portal, I feel like these guys are better at coaching, better at the X's and O's. Colin Hitchler is the guy that had, think about this, when he was at Cincinnati, coaching up Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant. They're the two best corners that we've ever seen in college football, at least in my time. I mean, I'm trying to think of a time where you had, it's like having Kool-Aid McKinstry on both sides of the field, right? And this guy was the guy that went out and recruited those guys. You talk about Womack from South Alabama. He did a great job there. And so I think that Alabama's upgrading as far as the ability to go out and call plays, and we'll find out. The recruiting part of it is what a lot of us are worried about, though. And that's what T-Rob normally has, except this time with Caleb Downs, whose family might not have liked Kirby too much, by the way. I don't know.
No.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's egg on his face to stick it out and then not get Caleb.
Well, I mean,
it had to be part of it, or part of the Georgia play.
You would think so. You think it'd be a package deal, but also remember, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I don't know why the Georgia fans are laughing so much. They were the ones that had the mass exodus. Remember all those players leaving?
Yeah, they did. I know.
I mean, it happened to them too.
Well, we're finding out that we don't have the Saban discount anymore. So, Chad, I think that what you should do as part of your mortgage special coming up for the month of February is offer any Alabama fan who gets a mortgage through your company that they automatically get a year subscription to Yay Alabama.
There you go.
Deal. Modern Lending and ChadwickAnderson.com will do everything we can to keep guys like Caleb Downs in the future. That's a deal, Mick. That's
painful. Last thing, I guess, before we roll out of here on a Sunday, how painful has the last week and a half been? Losing Saban, taking a hit from all of our biggest competitors, the joy that the national media has had kicking us around, watching Caleb DeBoer try to get his feet under him, watching a 5-star quarterback leave when your first commitment is a 4-star guy that we don't know. Not saying he's not great. All in all, every time I look on Twitter, I feel like somebody's just kicking me right between the legs.
Twitter's like opening up a horror movie, man. I used to enjoy Twitter. Now, you open Twitter, I just hold my breath. Like, when you get those ESPN alerts at the top of your phone?
No.
Yeah. You just hold your breath every time one pops up, man. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Oh, no.
Who's leaving this time? Yeah. Who's out today? Yeah. It's bad.
Well, now what I want to tell you guys, though, is now you know what it's like to be an Auburn fan. You've asked over the years what it's like to be an Auburn fan. And I know there's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of hurt people that Isaiah Bond, who of all these guys is the one that makes me the sickest just because of the business decision crap, and all that. But with all of that said, he still caught the ball that totally ruined Auburn's season. And I'm never going to forgive him for leaving, but I'm never going to forget. So it's a break even for me. We're fine.
Yeah.
Go catch your 3 balls at Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. pretty much. Him and
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know he's good, man. I'm just joking. Somebody's
him
going to
and
be like,
Guy
Nick, why are you going to do him like that?
Yeah.
He's driving a nice car now.
No, did you see that? He took a
Yeah.
picture with the Lambo, but he ended up with a Bronco.
The Bronco, yeah.
Good call, man. I used to have a Bronco in college at Alabama, so I'm with him on that.
Broncos are cool. They're just not a Lambo.
Yeah, they're just not a Lambo, but yeah, take the picture with a Lambo, you get the Bronco.
Yeah, no
It's
doubt. All right, guys, let's start with you, Brett. Final thoughts on this Sunday rollback show.
Final thoughts. Yeah, it was a hectic week, and hopefully it'll be a little quieter the week coming up. I don't know. We'll see what comes of this big weekend at the University of Alabama with some of the guys visiting. By the time this show airs, maybe we will have some news on that. But looking forward to what the next week holds, and I'm hoping, just like Chad probably, that the weather gets a little bit better up in North Alabama and in Tennessee, because this ice and snow was not fun, along with all the other things with the Alabama program this past week.
Yeah, it has
But
been
roll
cold
tide
down
anyway.
here. Roll Tide. All right, Chad, your final thoughts, and then tell us about ChadwickAnderson.com.
I mean, final thoughts is just get me the hell through January, man. It started with the Rose Bowl and it hasn't stopped. I mean, from the Rose Bowl to the weather to taking my meds. That's how you know you're getting old. To the weather, to Saban retiring, to transfer portals. Like Alabama fans, just in general, as spoiled as we've been for a long time, it feels like we've had quite a few years of spoiledness dumped in the negative way on us in the last few weeks. So, Bama will be fine, though. Like I said, I do love the hire. I love DeBoer. I think it's going to be great. I love the Dave Bartu, by the way. I think you know him, Mick. Or at least
I know of him. Yeah.
Yeah. So he does this thing called grading and what's called coach effect and things like that.
Yeah.
And he said
he's fantastic. I'm a believer in Dave Bartu.
He's a nerd. He's a guru when it comes to just analytics. And he said that Alabama has the best coordinator combination in the SEC from a coach effect standpoint. And this guy's an Oregon fan. Okay.
Yeah,
so he's not like, a Bama grad or something. Like he's Northwest Oregon guy, simply looks at charts, and he says that Bama's got the best coordinator duo in the SEC, which is pretty cool and impressive.
Nice.
So we'll see. But, Bama will have some good news. Spring will be here. Portal will open back up. And the team's going to be fun to watch next year. So excited about that. Excited about helping people save money on refinancing or buying a house. Again, we've helped over 10,000 families, $3 billion in mortgages in 13 and a half years. And just recently have literally helped a subscriber to this channel, talking to one other one. And we've helped 3 families just last month save $400 a month, $600 a month. And the crown jewel, second highest ever, $3,300 a month we help save. So when I tell you that this country is in more credit card debt than ever before, that's the exact example we're talking about. So ChadwickAnderson.com if you want to reach out and have a conversation. Cell phones there, emails there. I'd love to talk to you.
All right. Thank you, Chad. And look, a week like this back in the day would have been a Tuesday night at Harry's Bar. Wayne Mills playing, a lot of those crazy buckets. It would have been one of those nights that somebody probably would have given me a ride back to my dorm. I mean, this has been miserable, except back then it was normally because the football team lost to La Tech or Central Florida or whoever it was that was terrible. There were a lot of heartbreaking losses that Nick Saban made sure that from 2008 on, we didn't have. And I love him. And even though I've been a little bit critical of him for maybe not having a better exit strategy, I wouldn't trade him for anybody. I think he's the best. During dry January, this has been extra hard for a regular guy to deal with. What I want to tell you guys, though, is if you want to get away, Harry is no longer with us. Harry Hammond, who owned Harry's Bar, passed away last year. And he's watching Alabama football from heaven. And we all love Harry, even though no one ever knew what he was saying. We knew that he was a great guy. Now you can go to Pearl River Resort over in Choctaw, Mississippi, hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, Vegas style sportsbook, which means that when you make your bet, you give them the money and you don't have to worry about a guy named Rocco tracking you down because you didn't pay, right? It's fantastic. You got 20 TVs with all the games from all over the world in them, really all over the world these days. Any major sport, professional and college, they got it. They've got the kiosks. They've got the counter if you want to go up there and ask for a little bit of help as you're filling out your parlay or whatever you're doing. But find out for yourself, Golden Moon Casino in Philadelphia, Mississippi. If you're a big golfer like me that shoots under par like Nick Saban, I could beat Nick Saban any day of the week. They have, and I put this challenge out to him now that he's retired. Anytime, Nick Saban, you want to play golf, you come and get me, and we'll do this thing. And I'll take you to Golden Moon Casino. We'll hang out there, and then we'll go to Dancing Rabbit Golf Course. Coach, you've played on all the best, so I'm sure you've been there before, but it's the Augusta that you can play. It's an awesome golf course. They also have table games and slots if Miss Terry and your daughter want to go play some, while you're out trying to challenge me in golf. We can do it all there. And that includes you guys as well. Make sure that you check it out. They're really great people over there. And we appreciate them being part of our show. And all jokes aside, thank you guys for hanging out with us here for Sunday Rollback and on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. I know you have a lot of other places that you can go. We have a ton of competition, but you guys have said, hey, you know what? We like hanging out here, and the group of us, appreciate you guys doing that. So Roll Tide to you. Have a great week. And if anything breaks, you can count on us. And if not, we will talk to you guys again tomorrow. Roll Tide.